Fantastic Four by Dan Slott, Volume 4. This is the oversized hardcover. I kind of wait for these. I love this. This is my favorite format because the art's a little bigger, which is always awesome. And yet it's not unwieldy like an omnibus. You get about 10 issues, and it works out really well. I wish they'd really work on collecting more stuff in this format like this. The Fantastic Four run has been very nice to read in that regard. And so you've got, of course, interior art that's different on the inside. That's another nice thing about this format that Marvel does. They really produce a beautiful book with this. Here's the nice blue cover paper like their uniforms are. And here we go. So I have been reading this. It started out like I really enjoyed the first one quite a bit. And Dan Slott did a wonderful job. There's a really cool Doctor Doom story at the beginning. I liked, of course, Alicia Masters and Ben Grimm getting married. I thought that was a nice touch. That should have been done a long time ago. And they're having a nice time. It really is like building a family. And Dan Slott's done this really well. I was kind of surprised on this at the end of the day. Now, the art's really nice in all this too. And so it's been just a joy of a run overall. Now, the second volume got into some weird identity politics stuff as the Fantastic Four went to a different world. And of course, had to have the big lesbian moment and all that. That kind of sucked. The third volume got mired in crossovers with events, and so that was a problem there. But now it's back to standard form where everything's kind of good. And almost all of these are like one-shot stories. Here's one of Reed and the Thing getting trapped in some alternate dimension, having to fight some creatures. There's a lot going on. The Fantastic Four have like kids they're like adopting. Of course, there's Franklin and Valeria having things too. Dan Slott does do a thing which I kind of roll my eyes at, where Franklin Richards ends up going to a therapist who then shapeshifts into a version of Franklin Richards being like, "This is what you fear the most," and Franklin goes, "Oh, I guess that's true." And they make this whole thing about how therapy shouldn't be stigmatized, and I'm like, okay, I think therapy is kind of a stupid thing myself. But if it helps Dan Slott write these books, better. I guess that's good for him. But very like kind of interesting moment there. Now, over the course of this, Doctor Doom's now looking like he's getting married. He's got a gal who he's after and going to bring in. Johnny Storm has a gal from another dimension who has angel wings and all that, who has him as her soulmate. And then their relationship's on the rocks here because she's kind of realizing Johnny Storm's like a playboy and not really there for her as much as she'd like. And it causes problems here. Now, as you see, this is really funny. This is the funniest moment in the entire book. And I was like, wow. Johnny Storm actually cucks Doctor Doom before his wedding by hooking up with the Bride of Doom before when he's on the outs with his girl. And that gets kind of crazy here as they end up going to Latveria and then having this wedding where Doctor Doom uses the situation to call out his enemies and of course makes a whole spin on it where he's the hero of the people there by nearly killing the Fantastic Four and their allies. Really cool storyline and really beautifully done. The next long storyline here, there's this like Kang situation, and this looks like where they're drawing the inspiration for the upcoming like Disney projects from. Obviously, I don't know how they're going to go with that in the future, but you've got Kang and a bunch of past Kangs going back in time to get these objects from Reed Richards to try to screw with the Fantastic Four family. And one of them in a mask ends up being Dan Slott actually references different eras, like the one where they first met, King Tut, who ends up being Kang later in the future. They've got one kind of like in the middle of the Tom DeFalco era. They've got one where the Thunderbolts show up, like the original Thunderbolts, and which again probably trying to tie into the movie Disney Plus stuff too. I think Dan Slott's actually doing a pretty good job marketing that stuff in this comic book, which other books aren't doing quite as much. Really interesting. And then one that, of course, takes place during Hickman's era. So really, really cool. And it ends up like Reed Richards is a step ahead of them and pretending to be one of the Kangs under the mask the entire time to thwart the effort. So really nice to revisit all the eras of the Fantastic Four like that. Great use of continuity. Great use of course, honoring the past books in that. Like I said, this book's like really good. I mean, it's really not getting the attention it deserves. Now, after Doctor Doom had his problem, he actually flipped a switch on Johnny Storm where he burns like hot radiation full time, and he can't turn it off. And so Johnny Storm's kind of trapped, and they've got him in a like kind of dungeon at this point. His lady has left him at this point. She goes back to her own dimension. There's a cutesy little story where the Thing and Alicia Masters, they've adopted some alien offworlders. They go on some weird Halloween adventure, which is really adorable. And again, like it presents a really nice family dynamic and all that. And I appreciate them showing a positive married couple. That's unusual in Marvel Comics. Eventually, like one of the awards that they have is a clone of the Wizard, and the Wizard comes back and like tries to gain custody through court. There's a 2-issue deal, and of course, and She-Hulk comes and adjudicates it on behalf of the Fantastic Four. Now, Dan Slott wrote a She-Hulk run for a while. Again, it kind of ties back to that, and we have this like superhero attorney issue for 2 issues at the end of it. So once that wraps up, it pretty much wraps up the what's going on. We get a couple one-shots, which is a Ben Grimm Noir deal, which is completely different art style, but really nice, and a good one-shot as it is. A nice character piece on Ben Grimm with, like I said, different art style. This one, again, a completely different art style as the Fantastic Four goes on a road trip. This one looks a little wonky to me compared. Look at the hands here. I wasn't really a fan of the art on this, and like all the straightforward line art really was a lot. I'd say, not dynamic for a Fantastic Four, and look, just like everything looks kind of wonky in this. I didn't like the art in this at all, but it was a decent storyline revolving around like this, like kind of like universe screwing thing happening around them that they had to fix, and it ended up being the Thinker controlling it, and then they go back home on the road trip. So a lot of like interesting stuff. Dan Slott really doesn't write to trade. I mean, yeah, there's a few overarching plots. He does it like the old school style that like this happens to Johnny in this issue, and then we're going to build this in another issue. And that's really cool. I really like it that each issue really stands on its own as its own issue. I think this is crafted the way comics should be crafted. And this is a wonderful, wonderful installment of Fantastic Four overall. So leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Hit that like and subscribe button. I'll call this a 9 out of 10. I really love this. There is a little bit more left. Dan Slott went through issue 46, and this covers issues 30 through 39 of his series. And of course, those couple of one-shots at the end. But I hope there's enough material for a 5th oversized hardcover, because that would suck if they don't complete the run in that format and just kind of let you have a trade paperback at the end. That'd be a big bummer. Leave a comment down below, and we'll see you soon.